The private hangars at Westlake International shimmered under the harsh morning sun, steel ribs of opulence and power, where only the world's elite dared to tread. Outside Hangar 14, a line of tailored suits gathered behind tinted glass, their arms folded, faces twisted with doubt. The sound of sputtering exhaust shattered the sleek silence. A battered, rust-flecked pickup truck rolled onto the tarmac like a relic from another world. The VIP terminal had never seen anything quite like it. Heads turned, eyebrows raised, laughter flickered behind polished teeth. Marcus Jennings outstepped. Tall, broad-shouldered, and unapologetically worn by years of hard labor, Marcus moved with a quiet resolve. His skin, a rich mahogany hue, contrasted sharply against the sun-bleached concrete and shimmering fuselage of the Gulfstream G650 jet parked ahead. His hands, scarred, calloused, and oil-stained, clutched a dented red toolbox with more history than half the executives watching from the glass. "Is this a joke?" hissed Richard Hastings, director of operations at Evans Aerospace, not bothering to hide the sneer in his voice. "We asked for the best technician in the Southeast, not whoever this is." Marcus heard him. He always heard them. 15 years of swallowing the same poison, watching suits like Hastings walk off with credit they never earned, had trained him to expect nothing but the machine, the hum of turbines, the language of steel and circuitry. That was where he belonged, and where he excelled. "I'm here for the G650, Marcus said calmly to the runway supervisor, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Pressure system fault, correct?" The man nodded stiffly. "You have an hour. If you can't fix it, Atlanta's on standby." The jet gleamed like a predator in repose, $65 million of technological marvel. But Marcus didn't see the price tag. He saw a problem, a pulse, a challenge. He walked toward it, alone, until a voice sliced through the air like a scalpel. "Let him work." Every head turned. Alexandra Evans arrived. Alexandra Evans didn't walk, she commanded. Every step across the tarmac echoed with authority, her navy blue suit slicing through the morning light like a dagger of steel resolve. She was 43, with hair meticulously swept into a low chignon, and eyes the color of storm clouds gathering behind ambition. She ignored the cluster of executives forming a worried semicircle at the terminal entrance. Her heels clicked a measured rhythm until she stopped a few paces from Marcus. "You're the one they sent?" she asked, her voice clipped, but not condescending. Marcus stood taller. "Yes, ma'am." She didn't blink. "How long?" "That depends on the damage." "You have 1 hour, she said, checking a wristwatch worth more than Marcus's truck. "Impress me." With a slight nod, she pivoted and returned to the glass fortress, leaving behind a tarmac crackling with curiosity, contempt, and something else. Possibility. Marcus exhaled once, a steadying breath that banished years of invisible bruises. Then he got to work. The access panel clicked open, revealing the beast's heart. Within seconds, his eyes narrowed. The problem wasn't electrical as others had assumed, it was catastrophic. A total failure in the cabin pressurization manifold. If left uncorrected, the jet would have become a silent coffin at 45,000 feet. They would have all died. Hands dancing with surgical precision, Marcus removed component after component, rewiring, replacing, calibrating. Time melted around him. He wasn't on display. He wasn't the outsider anymore. He was home. Behind the glass, Alexandra watched, not with the skepticism of her peers, but with recognition, like someone reading the language of a long-lost dialect. And then, it was done. Exactly 38 minutes after touching the jet, Marcus stood, wiped his hands on a threadbare cloth, and began packing his tools. He didn't expect applause. He never did. But this time, Something shifted. The VIP terminal door swung open again. Alexandra Evans stepped out, alone. She walked up to him, her gaze unreadable. "How long would it have taken them to find the problem?" she asked quietly. "They wouldn't have," Marcus said, without flinching. "You'd have lost the jet and everyone on board." The silence that followed wasn't filled with disbelief. It was charged with realization. Then she did something that shattered the hierarchy of that world. She extended her hand. "Come with me." Richard Hastings stood frozen at the terminal entrance, disbelief etched across his face as he watched Alexandra Evans walk side by side with the man he had publicly mocked just minutes ago. Marcus Jennings, grease-stained, toolbox in hand, was now headed into restricted corporate territory. The hangar buzzed with unspoken tension. Alexandra didn't speak as she led Marcus through a corridor lined with glass-walled offices and hushed executives pretending not to stare. Her pace was brisk, her expression unreadable. They arrived at a secure elevator. She scanned her badge. No one else had access. "Top floor," she said curtly. Marcus stepped in. The doors shut with a whisper. Inside the elevator, silence reigned. "I've read your name before," Alexandra said without looking at him. "Just didn't realize it belonged to a ghost." "I'm not a ghost," Marcus replied evenly. "Just someone people stopped seeing." The elevator dinged. The top floor wasn't just an office. It was a fortress of glass and brushed steel, Alexandra's domain. She motioned him to sit as she stepped behind a curved desk made of black oak and carbon fiber. "Full name?" she asked, already typing on a sleek tablet. "Marcus Elijah Jennings." She paused. The initials, M-E-J. Then her fingers flew across the screen. A file appeared, then another, and another. She stopped breathing. Blueprints, schematics, engineering logs, each one signed off by M.E.J., each one dated 5 years ago, each one credited to another man in public records. Her voice was low when she spoke again. "You designed the original G7 pressurization system." "Yes," Marcus answered. "I submitted it through the internal portal. 3 days later, I was fired for technical incompetence." Her hands clenched the sides of the tablet. The door burst open. Richard Hastings stormed in, breath short, face flushed. "Alexandra, we need to." She held up a finger. "You're early." His eyes flicked to Marcus. "Why is he still here?" "We're discussing engineering," she replied coolly, "specifically the origins of the G7 system." A long, dangerous silence. Hastings gave a tight, patronizing chuckle. He was a junior technician. Maybe he ran some numbers, fetched coffee, but that system was my team's achievement. Alexandra didn't smile. "Then explain this," she said, turning her tablet so Hastings could see the digital signature M.E.J. on the original design file. His jaw tensed. "I'm sure there's some mistake," but before he could finish, another knock interrupted them. A woman entered, mid-50s, tailored gray suit, briefcase like a courtroom weapon. "Forgive my tardiness," she said, nodding. "Dr. Sophia Chun, Chief Legal Officer." She faced Hastings, her eyes icy. "I've verified the signatures. The intellectual property belongs to Mr. Jennings." Marcus sat still. He didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He just breathed. Alexandra turned back to Hastings. "You're temporarily relieved of duty, pending internal review. Security will escort you out." Hastings' face contorted. "You're making a huge mistake." Alexandra stood. "No, Richard. You did. 5 years ago." The door closed behind him like a gavel striking judgment. She turned to Marcus. "Mr. Jennings, Dr. Chun and I would like to make you an offer." He raised an eyebrow. "What kind?" Alexandra leaned forward. "The kind that rewrites everything." The executive floor was silent now, eerily so. Hastings was gone, but his shadow still clung to the walls like an old oil stain. Alexandra closed the door gently behind her and turned to Marcus, her posture composed, but her eyes burning with a quiet intensity. Dr. Sophia Chun laid a thick folder on the desk. Inside, signed affidavits, archived emails, patent filings, development logs. "Mr. Jennings," she began, "what we have here is overwhelming evidence that not only was your work stolen, but that your termination was orchestrated to erase your contribution completely." Marcus's jaw tightened. He had dreamed of this moment, fantasized about it even, but the reality was heavier, more hollow than he'd imagined. Because the past couldn't be rewritten, only exposed. Alexandra sat down slowly. "There's more." She opened a separate file, this one labeled Confidential Internal Investigation Notes. "For the past 2 years," she said, "I've been watching." "Watching what?" Marcus asked. "Patterns, names, race, timing." Her voice was steady. 7 employees over the past 10 years, Black, Latino, Asian, fired or demoted within weeks of submitting key innovations. Each time, their work was absorbed into existing teams and reassigned under someone else's name. Sophia nodded. And each time, Hastings approved it. Marcus leaned back in his chair. "You knew this was happening?" Alexandra replied, "I suspected, but I didn't have the evidence until now. You are the evidence." "Why tell me all this?" Marcus asked, his voice low. Alexandra didn't blink. "Because I want to burn it down." Silence. "I want Hastings gone for good. I want every one of his enablers exposed. But I can't do that without something unshakable, something they can't twist or bury." Marcus tilted his head. "And you think that's me?" "I know it's you." Sophia opened another folder and slid it across the table. "This is a proposal for retroactive recognition of authorship, financial compensation for royalties owed on the G7 system, and..." Alexandra took over, her tone sharper. "And the position of Director of Innovation, the title you should have held 5 years ago." Marcus laughed. But it wasn't out of humor. "You think the board will let a black mechanic from East Fulton run innovation?" Alexandra smiled for the first time. "They won't have a choice." At that moment, a soft chime rang from Alexandra's tablet. Her face shifted. "The board meeting," she said. "They're waiting." Sophia gathered the documents. "We'll handle this." But Marcus wasn't done. He reached into his toolbox, not for a wrench, but for something far more potent, a small black flash drive. He set it gently on the desk. "What's this?" Alexandra asked. "Insurance," Marcus said. Sophia plugged it into a secured terminal. The screen blinked once, then lit up with audio files, dated 5 years ago. Then a voice, Hastings' voice. "Take his name off the damn file. Who's going to believe some grease monkey from the South Side came up with that?" More recordings followed. Conversations, memos, even video clips from internal cameras Hastings thought no longer existed. All of it, carefully gathered over years. Not just Marcus's story, dozens of them. Alexandra stared at the screen. Her hands trembled ever so slightly. "How did you..." Marcus shrugged. "I grew up fixing more than airplanes. I knew what I was up against the moment I saw who took credit. People like me don't get second chances. so I made sure I'd never need one. Sophia exhaled, stunned. You've been documenting this for 5 years? Marcus nodded. I kept working while building a case. Alexandra's eyes didn't leave him. Not now, not ever again. You didn't just fix my jet today, she whispered. You just armed me with a bomb. The executive boardroom at Evans Aerospace was a modern coliseum. Walls of glass, steel beams like ribs of a dormant beast, and a curved mahogany table that seated the kingdom's elite. 12 names, 12 faces, 12 voting hands. At the center, a polished obsidian screen flickered to life as the board's video conference began. Faces from New York, Tokyo, London, Dubai, global titans of aviation, all ready to nod politely, approve budgets, and preserve the comfortable status quo. But today was different. Alexandra Evans stood at the head of the table in silence, her posture regal, but the storm inside her already gathering. Sophia Chun sat beside her, folders organized with surgical precision. And to the side, unnoticed at first, stood Marcus Jennings, wearing a pressed navy work shirt, toolbox nowhere in sight, holding nothing but his truth. Thank you for joining on short notice, Alexandra began, her tone sharper than usual. Today's meeting concerns a matter of extreme importance, one that will redefine our company's future and legacy. A few board members exchanged skeptical glances. Let's begin with the G7 pressurization system, a system that has earned this company over $428 million in revenue, reduced fuel consumption by 23%, and maintenance costs by 31%. Polite nods. She tapped her tablet. The screen changed. A blueprint filled the display. At the bottom, initials, M-E-J. I've recently learned that this design, she continued, did not originate from the team credited in our internal records. It was authored by Marcus Elijah Jennings. A pause. Then murmurs. Sophia leaned in. We have forensic confirmation, signature analysis, archived system logs, email trails. Mr. Jennings, Alexander continued, was dismissed from this company 5 years ago for so-called technical incompetence, 3 days after submitting this design. Now the murmurs turned into shifting chairs and muted curses. Why are we being told this now? Asked a British accented voice from the screen. Because now, Alexandra said, we also have this. She played the first audio file. Richard Hastings' voice oozed through the speakers. Get rid of him. Scrub the system. You want a black technician taking credit for our best product? Clients won't buy that. Silence. Then another voice. Another recording. More damning. More arrogant. Hastings, laughing. We take the design, rebrand it, file it under my name. Jennings won't even see it coming. He's too used to being ignored. A few board members paled. One coughed nervously. Sophia stood up. We have forensic confirmation, she began in a strong, unwavering voice. Researchers confirmed that over 7 similar cases have occurred in the last decade. Alexandra folded her arms. This company is at a crossroads. We can protect the guilty, or we can rebuild from the wreckage. The woman from Tokyo frowned. And Mr. Hastings? Suspended, effective immediately. We've secured his devices. Legal proceedings begin next week. And Mr. Jennings? Came another voice, this one skeptical. Alexandra smiled. I'm naming him Director of Innovation, Retroactive Authorship Recognition, Royalty Compensation, and, she paused, his full cooperation in restructuring our internal IP oversight. The screen exploded in voices. "You're promoting a mechanic? We have shareholders to answer to. This could destroy us." Marcus stepped forward for the first time. Not defensive, not angry, calm as a man who's waited a lifetime for this moment. "I'm not here for revenge," he said. "I'm here to stop the next me from getting buried." He met every eye. Even through a screen, his presence burned. "We make planes that break the sound barrier, but we still crash people's futures because of their names, their skin, or their zip code." Dead silence. Then the oldest member of the board, a woman with a voice like gravel, spoke. "I've served this company since it was a workshop with 20 employees and a busted coffee machine, and in all those years, no one has spoken truer words in this room." A beat. "I vote yes." One by one, hands raised, the voices shifted. And just like that, the quiet war had its first victory. Alexandra exhaled. The sky hadn't fallen. It had opened. The sun was setting behind Evans Aerospace HQ, bathing the glass towers in golden fire. But inside Alexandra's private meeting suite, the air was razor-sharp, charged with the weight of everything still to come. Sophia Chun reviewed documents with clinical precision, the kind of legal calculus meant to both shield and strike. Alexandra stood near the window, watching the world below as if recalculating its very structure. And Marcus, no longer just a mechanic, sat at the round table, his shoulders no longer burdened by silence, but armored with purpose. "We have 2 weeks until the general shareholders meeting," Alexandra said, eyes never leaving the skyline. "That's when we go public. I want every angle locked. No room for them to spin this." Sophia nodded. "The board votes are leaning our way now, but Hastings still has allies. If he leads first, they'll try to turn this into a rogue technician with a vendetta story." "They'll try more than that," Marcus said. He reached into his satchel and placed a leather-bound binder on the table. Inside were original engineering notes, dated, signed, annotated with his handwriting. Every page a bulletproof timestamp. But that wasn't all. "I've also got this." He clicked a key on his laptop. The screen flickered. Video footage. A security camera from the old development wing, secretly copied and stored. There was Hastings, standing at a whiteboard, behind him a young Marcus, animated, sketching the pressurization blueprint. Then, in another clip, Hastings alone, copying the sketch into his own notebook. Sophia's breath caught. "My God! You recorded all this?" Alexandra whispered. Marcus nodded. "I didn't have the power to stop them back then, but I had the foresight to keep the receipts." Alexandra turned to him. This changes everything. You could destroy him." "No," Marcus said. "We could destroy the system." She looked at him, really looked at him, as if seeing something rare, a man forged not just by brilliance, but by survival. And behind his quiet intensity, there was strategy, a long game, the engineer's gambit. Then the door opened, and Richard Hastings walked in. Not escorted, not invited, just confident. "I figured you'd be here," he said, straightening his $4,000 blazer. "I've come to make you an offer." Sophia stood instantly. "You're trespassing. Spare me the lecture, counselor." He turned to Alexandra. "You and I both know this could still go quietly. Marcus gets a settlement, a graceful promotion, the company avoids scandal, the stock survives." Alexandra's voice was ice. "You have no position to bargain." "Oh, I do," Hastings smirked. "I have copies of internal memos from your office, Alex, memos that show you knew about the discrimination and did nothing for years." She flinched, barely, but enough. You think you can blackmail me? I think I can bury you with your own guilt. Then Marcus stood. I already told you once, you can't erase me. Hastings laughed bitterly. You think anyone's going to believe a garage mechanic built the G7 system? You're a footnote in someone else's legacy. Sophia hit a button. The screen behind her came to life. We take the design, rebrand it. Hastings froze. He won't even see it coming. His voice filled the room. Then the footage played. The video of Marcus sketching, Hastings stealing, every boardroom lie turned inside out. Alexandra leaned in. You just lost the board, Richard. Hastings' face drained of color. I'm calling security, Sophia said. As the guards entered, Marcus stepped aside. Hastings didn't struggle. He didn't argue. But as he was escorted away, he muttered, This isn't over. Marcus met his gaze. It is for you.
3 weeks later, the world outside Evans Aerospace was already buzzing with whispers, headlines, and quiet phone calls between CEOs who suddenly felt vulnerable. Insider whistleblower exposes IP theft in billion-dollar aerospace giant. Mechanic turned innovator changes industry narrative. The Jennings files shake up corporate America. But inside the company's gleaming towers, change wasn't just cosmetic, it was structural. Gone were the framed photographs of white-collar heroes whose patents were now under dispute. In their place were anonymous innovations, diagrams, prototypes, flight models, credited only after careful review, many now bearing names that had once been erased. At the heart of it all, Marcus Jennings, now officially the Director of Innovation. His office was modest, by choice. A wide work table, open blueprints, and a screen constantly displaying real-time feeds from Evans test labs around the world. His old toolbox sat in the corner, a relic and a reminder. Alexandra walked in, tablet in hand. She said, They approved the Jennings Innovation Fund, $10 million to start, focused entirely on underrepresented engineering students, tech incubators, and community training programs. Marcus nodded. Good. We'll need talent the system never even tried to reach. 3 new hires from our East River STEM programs start next month. All 20-somethings, all brilliant. One of them built a turbine prototype in her garage. Sounds familiar? Marcus said. She looked at him for a beat. You could have taken the money and disappeared, you know. Sued, cashed out, never looked back. I didn't want revenge. I wanted access. For all the kids no one bets on. Alexandra sat down. There's something else. She slid a document across the table. Marcus glanced at it. His jaw tensed. It was a partnership proposal. Not a token title, not a PR stunt, a real equity stake. You've kept a small design firm running in your garage for years. I want to merge it with Evans. He hesitated. And what would I be? Her eyes didn't blink. Co-owner. Silence stretched between them. Then Marcus chuckled softly. You're not scared this'll make some board members combust? Oh, they'll combust, but I don't build to please them. I build to fly. Across the room, the screen lit up. New designs coming in from the interns. One of them had improved Marcus's old stabilizer prototype by 12%. He smiled. You know what's ironic, Alexandra said. If Hastings had just shared the credit, he'd still be sitting in that office. He couldn't. His entire world was built on the belief that people like me don't exist. She nodded slowly. But now you do, loudly. A month later, the Evans Aerospace Community Technology Center opened its doors in the very neighborhood Marcus grew up in. The ribbon-cutting ceremony wasn't flashy, no helicopters, no red carpet, just hundreds of young people, families, community leaders, and Mrs. Jennings, Marcus's 72-year-old mother, standing proudly in the front row. Alexandra introduced Marcus to the crowd, but the applause wasn't for her. It thundered for the man who had once fixed jets in silence and now fixed the future with his voice. Marcus stepped to the podium. "You know, people used to look at me and see grease on my hands, not designs in my mind, but it turns out you can build aircraft and still be invisible." He paused. "The real victory isn't me being up here today, it's that the next version of me doesn't have to fight to be seen. They'll just build, and no one will dare ask who let him in." The audience erupted. And as his eyes scanned the room, young faces full of spark and hope, he knew something deeper. He hadn't just rewritten his story, he'd re-engineered the launch pad.